7 AM activation, and as indicated on the time track, no matter if any site has preserved or postponed activations, we always take a random cheat from the pool. And it is a Polish activation, which means that the Polish response will not happen, as there is a Polish activation. So we do something similar as the Germans, but this time we activate all of the units on the map, but we need to pick a stance for each army. We go to Army Command Displays and we check if we want to change stance for any army. We have 3 armies on the map right now, 3 armies and 1 operational independent operational group. So considering what we want to do now, we will definitely move with the Pomorze army, with the Modlin army, and with Narew and with Poznań. We will perform movements with all of those armies. In case of a plan activation, if we pick the combat stance, no unit can perform any movement, but the army artillery can be placed on the map. But for now, it is more important to perform some movements. So first, in the first step, we check HQ ranges to check if we have lowered HQ ranges. CO is now for the Polish player 0 because there is no Polish activation cheat ahead of the time. And adding airbase range to the range of all armies that are on the map currently, we have range of 11. Let's count this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11. We've got range up to this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All of those units are actually now in command. In case of coast defense, all of those units are independent units and do not need to check if they are in command. So let's begin moving with our units. In the north, in the corridor, Pomorska Brygada Kawalerii will move towards Tuchola. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We do not add DFR because this is not a foot unit. 27th Division will go towards Brda River. 1, 2, 3, 4. We add 2 DFR. Starogard unit will move towards Czersk. 1, 2, 3. And we mark DFR X as it traveled all of its allowed 3 hexes. Wisła unit will travel 1, 2, 3. There is no ZOG. There's no ZOG through Major River hex. We also mark DFR X. I think we will leave Chojnice river in place, Chojnice unit in place, and we will jump with this unit north to consolidate with 9th Division, which will reduce detachment level by 1. let's move this unit right there. When a division has two detached units, it has one lost step, which can be regained only by consolidating with a regiment. And we place detachment 1 marker. Now, to secure this bridge, we are unable to move with this unit straight towards this hex, because it would cost 1, 2, 3 for the forest, +1 for the river, +1 for leaving Ezok, and +1 for entering a new Ezok, which is created by this spearhead. So we cannot move straight up, but it might be a good idea to take a detour and go around. 1, 2, 3 for leaving Ezok, and we will try to reach this bridge from the other side. And if the Polish unit does not have time to reach it, it will be able to operate in this area and block German advance. From the 15th Division in Bydgoszcz, we will detach one regiment. So let's mark it with small detach 1 marker. We use the method of performing a movement. So we place the regiment on the same hex and perform movement immediately. 1, 2, +1 for Izok, and we mark it with DFR2. Nakło unit will stay in place. For the Osa River sector, we will start performing some movements with Jabłonowo unit. 1, 2, and that's it, because it has movement allowance of 3. With Brodnica unit, we will move east. 1, 2, and 3. This will be DFR X. Poznań units. Let's move with the 26th Division 1 hex north to create Izok in those three hexes. And move this regiment, for now 2 hexes up, using 2 MPs, to be able to cover this bridge if the German player decides to move through there, or to head east to secure the southern part of Bydgoszcz. We don't have any more units in this scenario from the Poznań army. And now let's jump to the Modlin sector. So we have this marker, a defensive line marker, which indicates defensive lines that have to be manned by the Polish units, by the Polish player, until the end of the September 1st. They are all removed in the September 2nd turn. This is to prevent the preliminary escape of those units. Well, those units can move out of those hexes, but there will be a morale penalty if no units man those defense lines. In case of this sector, it is Mława defensive line, it is Ostrołęka and Różan bridgeheads, and Bydgoszcz, Koronowo and Rytel defensive lines. Keeping this in mind, we'll try to stop German units right in this sector. Mazowiecka cavalry will go to hex 3119 to block the German movement. So it's 1, 2, 3, and 4 because of German ESOC. We have a army artillery placed, which is part of the setup. With 8th division, we will detach a regiment. And in this case, leave the regiment in place and perform movement with the 8th division, which is going to be 1, 2, and 3. We add DFR 2 and place a Modlin regiment in this case. For the Narew sector, we have some more Modlin units right there. The 1st Legionów Division is pretty far away from any action, and regarding the low DFR limitation, which is only 4 hexes by turn, it might be a good idea to use some transport trains. We have 2 in supply, and we need 2 activations to be loaded on train. So let's mark this unit with a loading marker. If it manages to be loaded, and the marker is placed on this side, the unit will move at night with the rate indicated by the rail infrastructure box. In this scenario, representing actions of the 4th Luftflotte, box of 8, which would indicate that all trains can move 8 hexes, is permanently covered with 1 LF4S unit. For the 41st Division, which take a note that it has lower DFR limit than the 1st Legionów Division, we will move towards Półtusk. 1, 2, and 3. I'm burning all of the DFRs right now, which in many cases might not be a good idea, but in this case, it doesn't really matter. It is better to secure all of the movement if we have a chance to do it. For the Narew sector, we will leave it as it is. And the last part, which can be done, of course, during any part of this activation, we move combat trains, armored trains. So we have one right there, train number 13, Sosnkowski, and the train number 11, Danuta. Those trains are not combat units. They can only provide a small but sometimes very important DRAM in combat for the defender. So Danuta train, and as we check our rail movement allowance, it is now 7. If it would be 6 or 5, the hard 6 and 5 numbers are for transport trains only at night, and for armored trains we have armored train check for the box of 6 with 1 d6 roll. We simply roll 1 die and check how many movement points can be used by the train, and in case of box 5 it is lowered by 1. So now we can move 7 hexes with our trains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We need to help Bydgoszcz as soon as possible. And the train number 13, we will move towards Mława. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that's all for the Polish plan activation. referring to abilities or PQR, we move cheat 4 and advance time, which is also indicated by those 4 little arrows on the cheat. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we advance time. Again, we have no preserved or postponed activations, so we need to go with the random activation, which is Heresgruppe Nord. Now, we have two options at this point, because this cheat has two sides, Heresgruppe Süd and Heresgruppe Nord. Each side can be used only once per turn, and in the case of Heresgruppe Süd side of the cheat, it is simply a no activation cheat, as we don't have any units from Heresgruppe. In the abilities on the page 2 of PQR, we have something like this: no act, do nothing, advance time. Also, to replace cheats, mostly motorized court cheats that are not in this part of the front, we have in the pool special no activation cheats. So the question is, do we want to push with the German units now or simply burn this activation? I think it might be a good idea to burn this activation and do nothing. Why? Because we have conflicting orders value of 2, which means, first, all army HQ ranges, command ranges are lowered by 2, and all of German attacks now will suffer -2 attack modifier, which is right there. Conflicting orders -1, 2, or 3. -1 for the attacker is what now concerns the German side. And if we burn Heresgruppe Nord now, we will not have option to do this later if the cheat emerges from the pool. So let's use the no activation option of the Heresgruppe Süd. Of course, this means that the action now happens of the southern part of the front, which is not on the map. We need to advance time, and let's see what is this cheat. And this is a German plan. When the German plan 1 is used, German plan 2 goes immediately to the cup, which means the German player is able to use 2 plan activations during the course of the turn. So it works exactly the same as the Polish plan. It goes with the same activation procedure. So let's check the procedure. First, we check conflicting orders, reduce HQ ranges, and it is actually what is happening now. And now, because we skipped the 9 AM activation, conflicting orders from the plan regards, and the Fallweis regards all of the units and armies on the map, is only 1, which means German army HQs have HQ ranges lowered from 12 to 11, which is not a problem right now. Let's unmark all of the moved units. And we perform activations with both of our armies. But first, we need to pick a stance. Move stance, I have not mentioned this before. In move stance, all mobile units can still perform attacks after they perform movement. Of course, movement is not mandatory in this case. So if we pick movement stance, we will be able to move with our infantry units, which are not really in the position to attack anyone today in case of a fourth army, but we will not be able to set up our army artillery. Taking a quick look, if we pick a combat stance, we will not be able to move any unit, which means the 3rd division, Panzer division, will not be able to attack or move. And I think having a very good opportunity to really shatter the written line with the help of artillery, if we use the combat stance, I think it might be better idea to not lose the opportunity to move the 3rd Panzer Division. So we will stay with the movement stance. In case of the 3rd Army, we are definitely in the perfect position to attack in almost all parts of the front, so we are going with the combat stance. And picking the combat stance, we will set up the Army Artillery. Army Artillery has the range of 4 hexes, and in this range it can help with any combat. So first we go with all of the movements. 3rd Army will not move at all, and the 4th Army will perform its movements. So let's start north. This unit cannot move to the woods because it will cost too much movement points. It has only allowance of 3. Cost of the forest is 3 plus 1 for Izok in this hex and in this hex. So let's move north to Krokowa village. By the way, villages on the map have no gameplay effect, they are only just for flavor. This unit will stay in place. This unit will move 1 hex towards Wejherowo. 2 movement points and the last of 3 DFR, which means it is now X. It cannot attack, it cannot move. During the plan stance, during the plan activation and move stance, we can move our group HQs, which is this one. So we move 1 and 2 just to keep it closer to the front. This regiment will move south to try to threaten a little a Polish side. Change to DFR X, and as this is a grey bridge, which is always checked for destruction, we check it now. 4 plus is a bridge destroyed. Two, which means the bridge is intact. Now the main body of the army. So we will perform a coordinated attack with those 2 units against this defensive line. Or no, we will attack with the 20th Division north towards Chojnice town, and the 3rd Panzer Division, when it starts moving, the spearhead is removed, will move into this hex, 1, 2, 3 for Izok, and we will check this bridge for destruction. 4. The bridge is destroyed. Oops, not this one. Great. Oops, sorry. Turning off my speakers. Right. We do not have to mark any attacks of mobile units. In case of Fuchs units, we do, which will be shown in a moment. We just simply leave the units where they are, and when the combat segment starts, we can attack or not with our mobile units. Let's move with our main body of infantry. So this unit has a DFR of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We increase to 3. This unit has DFR allowance of 4. 1, 2, 3 for the road, 4 for Izok, and we move to X. 1, 2, and this is X because this is a weaker division which has only DFR allowance of 3. So those 3 units are now exhausted for today. They will not be able to do anything. We have still this division which will be able to move just one hex. Now let's prepare all of our combats. Before any combat starts, if we perform a combat with a foot unit, we will need to mark those combats with plant attack markers. So this will be this one, and when we plan those combats, we cannot cancel them. This division will attack towards Polish cavalry. Here we will perform a big attack against Mława. And right there we will attack a Mazowiecka. This attack is not obligated to be marked with a plant attack marker. Let's begin combat segment. On the northern part, we do not fight any combats. Let's unmark moved units. Let's begin with this combat against Chojnice. So, the same as in the physical copy, we will have a separate CRT, which we will be able to have handy anywhere on the map, and the combat template, which is kind of a marker that will help us predict and use the CRT. So first, we add our strengths. So it's 2 plus 1 against 1, which is 3 to 1. We place combat template aligning it with 3 and 4. And now we check our initial conditions for the combat. For the first combat, let's open the DRM shift, DRM column, sorry, DRM table. So first we have terrain effect. In case of town, it's 1, so that's -1 DRM. Conflicting orders, yes, we have value of 1, which goes further -1. Failed coordination, we do not know this yet, and we have a shock. This, which means that defender, if this considers defender, this is +2. It does not concern attacker. So, for example, if this Polish unit attacks, it will not suffer any adverse effect of this shock marker. But in case of defense, it is +2 for the German player. 1, 2. And that's all of the modifiers that we have. So our most probable results now are DR or DDR, which is not really good, because we want to take this town. We need to at least try to shoot for DDR, because in case of DR result, the defender can try to hold position. In case of DDR, which is a desperate defender retreat, there's no option to hold the hex. And we can do this with use of army artillery. So we will use 1 of 3 available army artillery units. We do not place them on the map, it's like from the pocket asset. And now we have the best chance to shoot for DDR. We perform a double 6 roll, and the first die is our primary die, and the result is 3. For details of how this combat roll works, we will leave this for the tutorial video. So the result is DDR. Chojnice unit is a one-step unit, needs to retreat 2 hexes, but it suffers a step loss if it moves through any kind of defensive terrain, which slows the retreating unit down and make it vulnerable for the pursuit units. And or we take a step loss if we retreat through any clear hex in enemy zone of control. In both cases, this is clear hex in ISOC, and right there we everywhere have defensive terrain. This is not the case if we retreat along the road, but bridge is always a defensive terrain, so in this case this unit is destroyed, in this case not, but in this case and this case the unit will be destroyed, so the unit is destroyed. Move to destroyed boxes. We add a daily report 1. All of the losses that are inflicted to units that are not currently out of command are marked as a daily report, and most of those losses might be regained in addition to replacement points before the next turn begins. So Chojnice is taken, and we will take it with this regiment and leave this division in place. We don't need to check this grey bridge because there are 2 bridges in one hex site, which means the yellow bridge not manned is now there until the Polish unit moves adjacent to it. Then, only then, we check if it is destroyed. The second attack is going to be against this hex. So, unfortunately, we move out our unit, a Polish unit that helped to secure the site of the 9th Division. But thanks to this, we have a little stronger 9th Division. So the strength ratio is 7-2. So we go to 3-1. And now let's check all of the modifiers. The defensive line does not affect the attacker as there is a gap. We have conflicting orders value of 1, but also the Polish unit has a detached marker, which is +1 for the German unit. So we add +1. Moreover, there's another modifier which is valid right there for mobile units, and it is a road in clear against foot only for armored units. This Panzer division attacks via the road in the clear terrain against foot unit, which means this is another +1. So the possible results, the most possible results are DDR, DDR. I think it is good. Let's roll. 2, 3. In this case, 3 has priority, so the final result is a DDR. The Polish unit has no other option to retreat through the defensive terrain, so it will suffer a step loss, which is immediately marked in the daily report. And we retreat towards Tuchola. Let's take a quick look on the combat results table. In case of DDR, defender must retreat 2 hexes or 1 and stop in non-enemy town or city, which is this case right there. If we have a friendly city or town, we can end advance there without any additional negative effects. But it is still a defensive hex, which means the retreat is slowed down and endangered by the hard terrain. Okay, we advance after combat. This unit, and that's it for this attack. Let's move to the 3rd Army sector. First, 21st Division will attack 16th Division. Strength ratio is 1:1, and we can move this, we can jump to 2:1 if we use our 1st Tank Battalion, which I think we will do. Now the German unit strength jumps from 2 to 4, which gives us 2:1. We have a intact breach, which is terrain -1. We have conflicting orders 1, which is further 1. And we might strengthen this attack with divisional artillery. And we might use 1 divisional artillery. Because if we break through this part of the front, we will threaten the left wing of the Modlin army. We get +1, and we roll a die. The Polish player has no option to strengthen his defense in any way. 5-3, result is a 3, and this is EX result, exchange. Exchange, both sides suffer step loss, no advance, we add daily report. We remove planned attack, step loss. And now, in case of a step loss, if the unit was strengthened by a tank battalion, we need to perform additional die roll to check if the tank battalion is damaged. On the roll of 4+, it will receive a damage. It is a damage. So we can unmark it as used. We marked it as damaged. And we place the unit on the calendar track 2 days later. So basically it is off the line for maintenance for 1 full day. And we mark daily reports. Pomorze and in the 3rd Army. Now let's perform our largest attack against Mława. So let's analyze all of this carefully. So first we have 2, 4, 7 against 2, which is 3:1. For the terrain, there is a river, but there is not, which means river does not affect this combat. But we have defensive line, which is -2, 1, 2, and we have a town, which is -1. And the maximum value of terrain modifiers is 3. We cannot have more, which is anyway maximum in this case. Then we add conflicting orders, which is -1. And this would be it for the basic preliminary modifiers. Oh, sorry, there's a detachment marker, so it is +1. And now, starting with the German player, we can add a support. Let's start with army artillery. We can use maximum of 2 shots per 1 combat, but in case of defensive line, only Polish unit can use defensive line, and it negates 1 divisional and 1 army artillery, which means this one use of army artillery is negated by the defensive line. Then we will use 2 of our remaining divisional artillery. 1 is eaten by defensive line, which means this is only a +1. And for the army artillery, we get a column shift. But that's not all. Unfortunately for the German player, the Polish player has a bunch of support that he can use. First, the armored train can be used, which will be used for -1. Then to cancel the army artillery shift, the Polish army artillery can be used, but we will not use it. Why? Because if we go back with the column shift, the most probable, and this probably will be the result of this combat, the lowered one, the lowest one, is the EX exchange, and we do not want to lose a step because we have a greater chance to hold this line with the DR result. In addition, Modlin army has an option to use one divisional artillery, which will go with the further -1 DRM, but we will not use it. We will just sit on what it is now. Let's make a roll. 3 and 4. It is not a double roll, which means the attack coordinated and all of the units are in attack. And the result is a 3. In case of 3 and 4, we take the result from the primary die. 3 means it is a DR plus attacker loss. In case of attacker loss, for now it can be avoided. So the strongest unit has to suffer the step loss, which is a Kampf division. We mark the loss immediately in the daily report. Moreover, because it is a panzer unit in attack, which took a step loss, we add a legendary battle marker to this hex. Let's mark it this way. On the general records track, we can move legendary battle by 1 to indicate and remember that we have one legendary battle to check. So this is the AL result covered. Now we need to check DR. DR is a defender retreat result, but it can be stopped. Defender can try to hold the line or retreat 2 hexes or 1 hex and stop in defensive terrain, friendly combat unit, non-enemy town or city. So we will try to take this option, hold the line. It's right there. There's the table for hold the line and withdraw table. We take the hold column and we perform additional die roll with 1d6, which is a 3. 3 with modifiers. Defensive terrain value was 3, so we already at 6. CCRT combat is not the case. Fortress garrison is not the case. Artillery used by the defender is not the case. Tactical air support used by the German attacker is not the case. And in case of hold table, we add +1 if we are in the combat stance and the army Modlin is not in combat stance. But it doesn't matter because of the defensive terrain value itself, it is already a 6, which is yes, the hex is holded without any loss. So this attack ends with 1 attacker loss and no adverse effects for the defender, plus a legendary battle, which is basically kind of a historical result. Let's perform this attack. 2 to 1. We have -1 for the conflicting orders. And that's basically it. We will not burn any support. So the result is 1, 2. 1 is a attacker loss, which can't be avoided at this point. So we take a step loss, mark it in the daily report, and then both loss. So the unit takes another step loss, and we will mark with small disruption marker. And for the defender, we might change this result into defender retreat, but we want to hold this flank, so we will take a step loss. CDP, loan, and we place a daily report, first loss of the day for the Moblin army. As there is no advance after combat, the plant attack marker is removed. Last two attacks. First, 2-1, -1 for conflicting orders, no support used for either side. Let's see if we use a artillery. No, I think this artillery will be needed for later. So let's leave it like this. The German player will not add any support. And we have a double roll, which does not matter at this point. And the result is a 3. Exchange. Both units take a step loss. And no advance after combat or retreat is performed. We mark this in the daily reports. And the last combat is without indication of plant attack, is right there. It's 1-1. And we will not use any support as well. And the result is 2. 2 is both loss, so we take a step loss from the Prussian cavalry brigade. Mark this in the daily reports. It's up to 5 right now. And now the Polish unit is a one-step unit, so it might be a good idea to try to withdraw. Let's open the hold withdrawal table. If we have a BL result, we can try to roll 1d6 and withdraw from the combat. The result is a 5. We have no defensive terrain, and just to confirm, Army Modlin is in movement stance, and in this case, if we use withdrawal table, we have +1. So plus goes to 6, and the Machiniec unit can withdraw 1 hex without any step loss. As the defending hex is now vacant, cavalry can advance. And this closes the German plan activation. We move cheat 4 spaces to the right, advance time, and we will cut here to finish the action phase in the part 3 of the playthrough.